Hope you're all having a wonderful week. Thank you once again for attending another session of the Alpha FXM-HP education series with Andersys. This is the last of 5 of this series we're offering this spring, sad phase, and we're excited to have Mike again with us today to go over the very last webinar, which is on FXM-HP dry contact relays. As some of you might know already, my name is Humphrey Tam. I'm your friendly neighborhood trade show manager / webinar guy here at Andersys, and I'll be your moderator for today. And hopefully you can actually hear me this time, because the last couple of times we had a bit of technical difficulties, a bit embarrassing stuff on my end, but glad that Mike's session still went well. But if you can hear me, please throw something in the chat or the question so that I know this is happening and I'm not just talking to the air again. Anyway, a couple of housekeeping items here. At any point during the webinar, if you have any question, you can use the question function to type it out, and we will try to get to it at an appropriate time. Usually for this particular set of webinar, we'll do it at the very end, just so that the flow will keep on going. And also, please give us some feedback at the poll at the end of the webinar. We know that because Mike is using a very heavy video quality this time, so maybe using GoToWebinar is not the best. So we are considering maybe using other platform like Skype or something like that for next time. So give us some feedback on that as well. And lastly, if you missed any of the session of this series, don't worry, we actually have all of them recorded. I'm just in the process of editing some of them, and in a couple of weeks, I will send out an email to all of you with all 5 of the webinars, so you can just go back and review them and watch them over and over again if you want. All right. Okay, I think that's it. So let me give you a brief introduction to Mike again. So Mike Olson is Andersys Senior Technical Sales Representative. He has been in the traffic industry for over 35 years and focused the last 15 years on BBS for traffic signals and ITS. He has worked in customer service, training, BBS design, and manufacturing. But lately, he spends a lot of his time helping customers with application designs, product training, and troubleshooting. Mike has done training sessions all across North America and currently online to help customers get the most out of their traffic system. Mike, how is Minnesota over there? Are you guys doing some marathon, or is that what this dry relay is about? Dry relay marathon?
No, it's a dry contact. Yeah, although it is quite dry here, but not quite the same thing. Yeah.
All right, I'll pass it on to you.
All right. Thanks, Humphrey. Welcome, everyone. Again, appreciate you coming by and sticking in as we finish out this series here on dry contact relays. Yeah, it is probably a dry subject, so tag off of Humphrey there, but there's a lot to it. So as we wrap up the HP series, there's just so much detail, so many things that you can get into. I'm still finding new features as I go into it, finding other ways to do things, constantly learning. And our development team is constantly adding things to it. So it's a continual thing, it's an evolving thing. So there is a lot to it. So, but today we're gonna focus just on dry contact relays and get into that. So as we think about that though, with the legacy product, had a lot of options there for selecting, relays and the configurations, but yet it was quite limited. With the HP, there's just a ton of things that you can do with it. So it adds a little bit of complexity. But it's not hard, it's just different. So I'm going to go over that and show you how to do things and how to set it up today. So, all right, so let's get into it then. So dry contact relays, what do you use them for? Well, 2 main things typically. You're typically either going to use them for some type of alarm notification. It could be wired to your alarm input of your controller to say, hey, by the way, the system's in backup, or my batteries are low, or there's some alarm going on. So use that way as some type of notification, or you're using it to control something, some device, maybe it's your traffic signal cabinet, so that when you hit 40% of battery capacity remaining when you're in inverter mode, you now go to flash, which gives you longer runtime in the street because you're at an extended outage at that point. So different ways you can do that, but these are the contacts as they're set up by default. So the first one is on battery, C2 and 3 are low battery plus no line. C4 is timer, C5 is alarm. And with the HP, the alarms are different as we discussed previously. There's over 60 of them, plus you can add some of your own, but they have different priority levels. So there's warning, minor, major, and critical. And by default, the alarm on the direct contact is programmed for the highest three. So warning level alarms do not trigger that relay, but they could if you wanted to add that. That's easy to do, but by default, we have it set for the top three. Last one, C6, that's the 48 volt contact that's used for controlling the fan, powering the fan in the signal or in our VBS cabinet. And typically when you use direct contact relays, you're working with logic ground because you're tying it into your controller, but you could do it for other things. You can actually run 120 VAC through here at a low current, 1 amp max if you wanted to, but most users are doing logic ground and they take that to the center position, and then they're taking the normally open contact out to do something, as I'm showing here, alarm inputs or take your cabinet to flash kind of stuff. But boy, sky's the limit as to how you want to program these things, how you want to use them. So let's talk about how you do the programming and how you look at these things now. So the first thing you might want to know is, what about the status, right? So what status are my relays in now? And as I go through this presentation, I've got it split up into two sections. So the first section here, I'm going to show you how to do these things with the web page. I'm using screenshots today for most of it. And then the second half will be, how do you do the same thing, but through the LCD? And I've got screen captures on that too to keep that moving along. So I'm going to do the same thing twice, but two different ways, because I think it really helps understand both interfaces, because sometimes you're going to be on the street, sometimes you can be back at the shop or wherever you are to get into your system. So, but let's say you want to look at relay status. So how do we get that information? So we follow the breadcrumbs here. So we just go to System, FXM-HP, and then Status. So that's would be on the menu bar that you would click that, and then scroll down. This is the, I think, second to last window that's in there. And then you can see your relays. And you'll see all 6 of them here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What they're currently programmed or named, okay, for, and then what its current value is. What is the status of that relay? Is it in normal mode or abnormal mode? Okay. And then is the contact, the relay energized or not energized? And what does that mean for our contacts? Okay. So a normal mode would be not energized, okay? And the normally closed contacts are closed, okay, at this point. Now you could also reverse this if you wanted to. If you wanted to do something backwards, you can actually change how that operates. So that normal means that it's energized. So just put that in the back of your head for future as you're looking to do some things. If you're gonna do something out of the ordinary and you want that to be the case, you can actually do that. But by default, normal means not energized, normally closed contacts closed. That's a mouthful. Count means how many things are driving that relay. How many possible things could be triggering that relay that it's currently set up for. You'll notice that most of them have 1. They're set up for 1 trigger. So when it goes to on battery, that's the only thing that's driving it. But down in the alarm section, like I mentioned, we have 3, and that would be the 3 upper alarms. So the upper 3 levels of that alarm. So you would have there. So not warning, but minor, major, and critical are doing that, okay? And then the last one, of course, is not available because that's the fan. You can test your relays. So this is a good thing to do. Once you get your system hooked up, you want to verify, yeah, is the wiring right? Is it things acting the way they're supposed to when I energize this relay? So if you don't want to create the actual condition that triggers this, which you could do it here and just go test relay. So you click that, it's going to energize the relay or change its state from whatever where it's currently at. Okay, and it will sit there, and then a little window will pop up, a little button next to it. They'll say stop test. So just click that when you're done with your test, and then you're back to normal. All right. Last thing is the arrows over here. That takes you then into more detail on that relay. All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to work with relay C3, and we're going to change how that's currently programmed. Right now it's low battery and no line 2. Okay, and we're going to change that to be something else. But we've got to change the trigger to make that all happen, right? So we've got to take it away and then add one. So let's do that. Another thing too is that any relay, again, just remember, it can be programmed for multiple things. So you may see multiple items here. So if you're going to change one and it's got a couple things there and you want to totally clear it out, make sure you go in and you clear out each of those things that are triggering it, or maybe you want to leave one. So just be aware of the count and the things that are driving that relay. All right, so we're going to go and we would click here on this arrow and change that relay trigger. So this is one of the windows you'll see pop up when you click that, and you'll see what it is driven by. So anything that it's programmed for, any of the triggers will be listed here on this list. This one only has one. It's being triggered by low battery and no line 2. So if I'm going to go in and change that, now I click that one and we dive deeper into it. And now this takes me to the actual alarm, because low battery and no line 2 happens to be one of the alarms in the controller. Okay, and we can see all the alarm provisions here. And we go down and we look for the relay right here. And we want to negate that. We don't want that to drive that relay anymore, because we're going to program it for something else. So we click the pencil. Pencil allows you to edit. And then it's going to bring up this window here. The first time I was changing the relay, be honest with you, I couldn't find how to switch it off. I'm like, how do I disable a relay? Where is it? Where is it? It was just so simply obvious, and it wasn't called out with text, so I couldn't find it. So to prevent you from having that same deal, it's right here. So anytime you see 3 dashes on a setting, it means it's not configured for anything. Okay, so in this case, that relay is not going, this alarm condition is not going to trigger any relay. Okay, so you want to select that, click save, and now we've prevented that alarm from driving relay C3. So that alarm could come up, but it's not going to drive a relay at this point, all right, once we've saved it. Okay, so now that's cleared. Now we have to add a new trigger. So what is it that we want to have drive relay C3? So let's say we wanted to do close to inverter shutdown. I just picked something off the list. Happens to be near the top of the list for the FXM-HP. So I said, all right, let's do it. So what you do then is you would click this arrow, okay? Well, let me explain what this is first. So close to inverter shutdown, that means when you're in an inverter situation, you're backing up the power, right? And the voltage continues to drop on the battery system. And if it's a 48 volt system, when it gets to 42 volts, the inverter shuts off because there really isn't any usable power left in the batteries. And to protect the batteries, we turn the inverter off. So when you get really close to that point, this alarm is going to be active. All right, so we're going to make that trigger C3. So we would click that arrow, and after we do that, now we get into the detail of that alarm, just like we saw on the previous one for low battery, no line. So here's the relay one again. You can see it doesn't have anything programmed now, so we're going to change that by clicking the pencil. And now instead of selecting the dashes, because we already did that, we actually want to select it for something. So we select FXM-HP, FXM-ADIO, and then here's my options for relays that I could pick. All right, so low battery and no line 2, that's the one we want to change is C3, but notice the name is wrong. We got to fix that. But we want to pick relay C3. That's really what we're looking for. What relay number are we changing and adding this trigger to? It's C3. Okay. All right, and we can see now as we look at it down here is driven by close to inverter shutdown. Okay, and here's relay C3, but notice the name hasn't changed yet. It doesn't do that automatically because we give you the flexibility to name that whatever you might want to name it, whatever makes more sense to you. Maybe you've got custom data equation and you're tying a bunch of things together, so you're going to abbreviate perhaps some of your logic terms so that when you look at that, you know exactly how that relay gets triggered. So we leave that to you. So then we have to go in and change this name to make it correct. So but the key is look at the parentheses, because that's always verifying which relay you're looking at. Relay C3, hit the pencil here to get to the name. And this window pops up, and then now we can change the name. We'll call it close to INV shutdown. Okay, click save, and now we've changed the name. Right, so just like that. So it wasn't too tough. We took the alarm off of one and then added the relay to another one to C3. Okay, all right, so that's how you do it through the web page. Let's do the same thing through the LCD dashboard. Okay, so again, start at the beginning. What about status, Mike? How do we see the status of our relays? A few different ways to do that. One is through the 4th panel dashboard. So by using the white circle here, advancing 3 more panels gets you to the last one. And panel 4 shows all of your 6 relays and their current status. So you can see 1 and 5 are currently energized, and 2, 3, 4 are not energized at this point. And of course, not reporting C6 because that is just the external voltage there. So, okay. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it, I showed you this on one of the other webinars, is that you can actually change those dashboard values to be something that you would like instead of what we've got set up. So in this example, I've changed what used to be the configuration for the FXM to show me the C1 to C6 status. And so this is an abbreviated format, meaning these relays are currently energized, relays 1 and relay 5. So that's another way to see the status that's going on. And if you want a detailed view, looking at it through the menu system, kind of like how we did for the web page, just touch anywhere in the shortcuts area to take you to the shortcuts screen, okay? Then look for this icon down here, that's the relays. Select that, here's your status. So just like it is in the menu system, and then we select the relay. Here they are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can scroll to see the rest of them. Touch the arrow. All right, and then it tells us again, current value normal, not energized, normally closed contacts closed, and there we've got that information. Okay, so that's another way to look at the relay status. Okay, so now let's change the relay trigger. So remember, we've got to get rid of the low battery, no line 2 from driving relay C3. So let's do that through the LCD now. Again, we're going to touch the shortcuts on the dashboard. Going to go to relays again. But this time instead of status, now we're going to go to configuration. All right, and here we're looking for relay C3. Okay, so use the arrow. Okay, and again, so here's the navigation, the FXM-HP, which could select another relay, but we want to turn this one to no, don't trigger any relay. So again, we're selecting the 3 dashes. All right, and that clears the trigger. And then you can see then that's 3 dashes. So we've done it, we've made the change. Low battery, no line 2 will no longer drive a relay, at least at this moment. Okay? So now let's add that trigger in. So hopefully you see that it's pretty simple. Just remember, you want to make something not trigger a relay, convert it to the 3 dashes, and then add your trigger by going to an alarm or an equation. Okay? So in this case, we're going to select menu now, because we're going to use that alarm. Remember, close inverter shutdown is an alarm. So we're going to go to our alarms. So we select that. We're going to look at all alarms. And now we're going to have to scroll through the list until we look for the FXM-HP, and that's when you're actually talking about the inverter alarms. So close inverter shutdown is the one at the top of that list. So we would select that. And here's the relay then. So all the alarm parameters go down to the relay, and we can see it's got nothing there, right? Because it's got 3 dashes. Okay, so now this time we're going to go and we're going to select FXM-HP so we can get through that list again. And then FXM ADIO, and now the list populates, and we can pick whichever relay it is that we want to drive. Okay. So we could pick any of these because they're up there. So that, like in this case, we could have it drive a relay that's already programmed for something else, and then we would have 2 triggers driving that relay. In this case, we're just setting it up on its own. So we're going to pick relay C3. Okay, and now you can see relay is now set to C3. Okay. But again, the name is wrong. So we got to change the name. Okay. How do you do that? Back into the menu again. And this time we're going to go into System, FXM-HP, Status. So if you remember the breadcrumbs from the web pages, this is the exact same breadcrumb trail we're taking for the most part. Menu, System, FXM-HP, Status, and then Relays is a window towards the bottom. Then we select the relay. All right, so now we're at Status. Here's the list of relays. Pick the relay I want, relay C3. Okay. This is a little different now. So now we go to relay output. Okay. And then we can then see the name. All right, so here's the list of all the items that have to do with that relay. The name is the one we want to change. So click the arrow. Little window pops up so we can type in with our keypad, low battery plus no line. And of course, remember, you're going to be logged in to make any changes on the LCD as well. So be sure to do that right away. It will prompt you if you're not. So, all right, we change the name to close to inverter shutdown. Use the check mark as the enter there. And then now you can see the name has changed. close to inverter shutdown, output relay C3. No longer does it say low battery, no line. So we've made that change. Okay. All right, so that's it. I mean, we're not done with the webinar yet, but as far as changing the setups of the relays, it's pretty much those practices. So you look at what a relay is currently be driven by. Do you want that, or do you want to change it? And if you want to change it and not add to it, then go in and follow the arrow to wipe out and put 3 dashes into whatever it was triggering it before, probably some alarm state. Okay, and then figure out what it is you want to drive that relay with now, likely an alarm of some kind. And then go into that alarm setting, select the relay, right? Go to the relay setting, find the relay you want and put it in there. And you can do multiple things as well as if you want. Okay. And then you can also do custom data equations, like I showed you a couple weeks ago, and those can drive relays, and you can select those if you've got them programmed and drive a relay as well. So really quite powerful. A little more complicated, obviously, than a drop-down list and a checkbox, just selecting it. But a ton of more power by being able to get in and actually tweak these things the way you want. I think most people would probably just use the defaults. That's why we set them that way. It's the most common things people pick. But I do have people ask me fairly often, hey, if I want to do this, how do I do that? And so that's what we're doing this webinar today. So you can see how to do it, get the basics of it, and then jump in and get your feet wet with it. So let's say you want to work with timer, because I know some of our customers use the timer relay. How a timer relay works is that you have a preset value, and by default ours is 120 minutes, so 2 hours. And once the unit goes to inverter mode, that timer just starts counting down. Okay. And once the time elapses to 0, it then changes the state of that relay. Okay. So some agencies will use that for flash. They'll say after 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever of automatic time, I want to bring my intersection to flash. You can do that with the timer, but maybe you want a different value. So how do you make that change? So you would navigate then through the web page, through System, FXM-HP, System Functions, and then look for this word Load Shedding Relays. And under that will be a list of load shedding relays, and you'll have 2 set up by default. So timer 1 and timer 2 will be in your system when you get it new. And so then go in and pick what you want. Timer 1 is the one that's pre-configured for relay C4, okay? So we can see we've got timer 1. You could change the name if you wanted to. You could give it a description. Verify that it's enabled. It should be, but verify that it is. Okay, then down here on the relay activation delay, that's the time. So you can adjust that to whatever you want. You can go anywhere from 0 to 720 minutes then. So 8 hours or whatever, so long time. You can adjust that, set that to where you want, all right? Then we have these time periods below. That's the time of day windows. So what that does is that if you have a timer set and you don't want it to run during a certain time period, that excludes the timer. So let's say you're counting down, time down, and then you run across the actual time of day happens to cross this threshold that you've got set. Say it's 7 a.m. and now you're at 7 a.m. The timer will then stop. It will stop counting until that time of day window passes, okay? So some people use this to prevent their intersection from going to flash during rush hour. That's an option there, one of the many things you can do with it. So right now we don't have any time period set because we have the 3 dashes again, right? That's what those mean. But if you wanted to, you can add one. So if you click the pencil, if there's any time period set up, and there's 2 by default, they're called time spans, time span 1 and time span 2, set up by default in the system, you could then select it by putting the pencil there. If you want to make your own brand new, by clicking the configure button, that takes you to a wizard, which I'll show you in a couple minutes here. So that's how that works. All right. And let's see. And to do this through the LCD, you select the dashboard area. And now you're looking for this one. So right next to the relays is timers. Okay. Select the timer you want to change. So here's timer 2, here's timer 1. So let's say we want to change timer 1. Click the arrow, go to configuration, and then there's all those values that we just saw in the other screenshot, right? So we want to make sure that it's enabled, and then we can change the time right there, and just enter the numbers, save it, and then again, there's the time periods as well. We want to select a certain time period, all right? Okay, so what if you wanted to create those time spans in? So let's jump into that quick. So we have this thing called the scheduler, and let's jump to that live over here. So I've got my FXM-HP powered up. We're logged in now on the web browser. And let's say we want to set that scheduler. So that's a controller function. So we go to controller, advanced functions, and then now we go to scheduler right here, right below custom data, and then which is right below user alarm. So 3 things you may want to look at. We went through those in some of the other webinars. So here's the scheduler. Okay, so there's scheduled actions and there's time spans. So what we're looking at right now is the time spans. And you can see I've just got a bunch of them there. So I play with all kinds of different scenarios and set things up. And so I've got a bunch. What you're gonna see is you're gonna see time span 1 and time span 2 by default. And I changed those names because I was like, oh, which one's 1 and which one's 2? And I wanted to be able to think more clearly as I look at applications. So I renamed mine. I went into it and called one morning rush and one evening rush. And then I adjusted the time here to what I thought made sense. And there you go, here's 2 time spans, all right? So you can pick an existing one. You can edit it by going off here and getting the detail this way. And you can see, so here's morning rush. Tells you it's running weekdays and my start end time, and I could tweak that if I wanted to. All right, but let's make a new one. So let's go back here, scheduler, create time span. Okay, so now I can create a name for it. It says, okay, what do you want to call this? Let's just call it test. That works for me. Then you choose the days you want it to run. So we've got options. We can run it every day of the week. We can run it weekdays. We can run it weekends. So let's call it, let's just do weekdays. Okay, when do we want the start time to be? Let's say we want 11 p.m. All right, and then we'll have it stop at, say, 5 a.m. Now notice when I selected this, that it highlighted all the text. So just a little pro tip is that if you don't want to retype everything, you don't have to. You can go in and just select a section of it and just edit that if you want. But it's very easy to go and all of a sudden start typing. And you went, oh, no, I meant to just change this one little thing. Then you're typing the whole thing again. Not a big deal, but you'll find as you use it, you go, oh yeah, let's just click on there twice to get to the section of the text I want to edit. All right. So we're running 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. is this window on weekdays. So I'm going to click next. Okay, now it says review. So first we configured it. Now we're going to review. Okay, and it's got the schedule there. Yep, everything looks good. Click next, and success. We've now created a new time span because I don't have enough, right? So here we are, test time span, and it tells you, is it currently within the time span, true or false? And you can see I've got a couple of them that are. This one's between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m., so that's true. And this one is 6 a.m. to 10:59 p.m. So anyway, so that's how the time spans work. That's where you create them. Okay. So again, that is in the controller, advanced functions, and scheduler is where you set that up. You can also get to it by going to the relays. So system status. I'm sorry, not the relays. Over here, system functions, load shedding relays, where I meant to go. All right, and then we go to timer 1. Here's the configuration. And you can see what I've got this one configured for. I've got morning rush and evening rush already set. And then here's the wizard. If I just click that, I can create a brand new time span right there. So you don't have to go to the scheduler if you don't want to, if you're already in the timer. But maybe you're going to use it for something else and you're not going to use it on timer, then you go to the scheduler. Okay. All right. Another thing you may want to change as far as relays go. So there's timer relay and then there's the low battery relay. So low battery relay by default is set to be triggered when the batteries hit 40%, okay? So maybe you want some other value. Most users don't change it, but every once in a while someone will change it or they want to test it. Sometimes I set mine to 0 or I set it to 100% because I want it to go right away because I'm playing with some custom data equation and just want to see what happens. But anyway, so how you get there is that in the search bar, type in battery thresh, okay? And then where you end up with then is over here on the system properties page. And this is the one you want, low battery threshold. Okay, currently at 40%, you would just use the pencil to go in and change that value to whatever you want. So that is how much is remaining. So 100% is full. When it gets down to 40%, that is the value that those relays, low battery relays, will be triggered off of. So if you wanted to do something different, that's how you change that. Okay. All right, if you want to do through LCD, again, it's the same breadcrumbs. So menu, system, FXM-HP, configure system, right? And then system properties, that's the window we're looking for. And then scroll down and find low battery threshold. Okay. All right, that's it. What do we have for questions, Humphrey?
Oh, I'm here. Sorry. It took a minute
You're
for
probably
me to
surprised I'm
find
done so
that
early.
the button.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure. Actually, there is no question today, which is surprising. I mean, the question was not related to your to the webinar itself. It was actually related to if there's a recording for the past webinar. So maybe we'll just give it another minute, just in case people have pop-up have some questions about the webinar. But how you feel about it? Are you happy with this set of webinar, Mike?
I am, yeah. I am. Hopefully the audience is as well, the participants. The education series I think is good. You know, we've been planning this for a long time. I know we've drilled deep, and so you know, fewer and fewer people are going, hey, this is really deep. So we'll get into it when I get a system. So, but it's great that we're gonna have these videos so people can refer to them as they get into their system. They go, yeah, what did Mike say, and all of that. So yeah, and we've got the application notes then for each of these. Shown behind me here. You can get it on our website. You can go to our support page and look for application notes, and these are all pushed out to the system on June 1st. So you'll see them. I checked it out today, and they're at the top of the list. You can also find it by, if you're navigating in the traffic ITS section and you click on the FXM series and you click on FXM-HP, there's also a link there where the data sheets links are as well. So a couple different ways to get these application notes, but right on our website for you all.
Absolutely, yeah, and I checked them out actually just a couple of days ago. They're all there. They actually looks quite pretty. Yeah, no, so we really just got some thank you instead of questions here on the question forum here. So I think that's it. I think that's a wrap. Thank you, Mike, for past month and a half for these really informative webinars. I'm sure there will be plans to do more of these in the future. I don't think we have any plans in the summer, but maybe in the fall or even next year, isn't it?
Right, yeah, we don't have anything planned right now. I am looking at doing some short segment of videos. So if you want to know how to do just one thing, maybe just a 2-minute or 3-minute short video. So haven't started producing those yet, but that's on my wish list of things to do. So be watching for those as well.
That's great. Well, thank you, Mike. I guess you have a great summer, and then we'll catch up with you in the near future.
Sounds good, everybody. Thanks. Appreciate your business. Take care, and you know, enjoy your summer. And let us know if you have any questions or want any help on this stuff. We're here for you. All right. Thanks now.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.